So we are sitting here having a conversation that we've been having for about an hour as everybody gets everything set up and runs around. People are going to notice some change in the location where we're filming behind. We're still young in this and trying to figure out what is going to look the best. But sitting next to me is a friend, Ben Butterworth, of the local Seacoast music scene community, and much greater than that, fame of probably far-reaching. You come down to us from Vermont. I want to start some of these podcasts by divulging, because of this weird, unique life that I've lived and how I've lived it over the past 20 years. I have some absolutely incredible people that I'm connected to, and you're one of them.
Wow.
You're a workhorse in this scene, so I want to acknowledge that. We can just continue our conversation that we've been having
Cool.
for the last hour, but I want to make sure that that's out there. Is what you do for the community is pretty awesome. I've been watching you for a long while, and I think I speak for an awful lot of the people in the community when I say thank you, Ben Butterworth, for helping to carry the torch here. Nevin, I know, is in studio. Anthony Fiandaca, Darien. I think everybody can probably agree to that. Thank you for doing Bogey's open mic down in Hampton, keeping the open mic flame going. But you have a lot of musical projects, and you're an interesting dude. And in this community, specifically, weirdly, per capita, it may not be the biggest place in the world, but the volume of incredibly talented world-class artists that are here and some really incredible thinkers, brilliant people, I have access to a lot of them. So I thought, let's have some conversations with these people. We have an interaction going between Seacoast Entertainer, and which is a nonprofit that I'm a part of, and Portsmouth Public Media Television, which is where we're shooting today. Because of that, we have access to do this. So I thought, call through all of these incredible people. I just talked to Anthony Fiandaca the other day. Eventually, I'll get through, man, I hope at least half of the community. So Ben Butterworth, for those who don't know you. Hi, Ben.
Hey, how's it going, Sean?
You know, it's going all right. So like I said, we're having a conversation, and it somehow got to you in Vermont. And you were playing a show in Vermont, or was it a show, people involved, or was this just a gathering of musicians?
Well, I mean, I lived and played in Vermont in a couple different locations for not quite a decade, so it could have been, I'm not sure which show I was talking about.
There was a gathering of at least 20 people. There were a lot of rhythmists. There was a lot of motion, creative motion going down.
That was really fun. Actually, through a series of people that I knew, a guitarist originally from D.C. but transplanted to Vermont, reeled me into a musical relationship he had with the professor that was the director of the World Music Percussion Ensemble at Dartmouth College. So getting to do those shows with that level musician, like he taught like junior and senior level percussion programs in the music department. So it was one of those like, what exactly happened to that got me here, you know, from playing open mics at Kilkenny's pub in Keene, New Hampshire, you know, 25 years ago or whatever, you know. So it was one of those moments that just makes you go, wow, how did I get here?
I feel that.
You know, like,
I feel that.
whose big car is, whose beautiful house? Like,
yeah.
How did I get here?
What do you see as different? What are the similarities and what's different between, you know, playing? I mean, open mics, I would imagine, are pretty similar. I go to a lot of open mics also. I find it a great way to not just sharpen, but to stay very much immersed in the community that is the musicians that, you know, that make up the area. But what is it that's similar? What is that's different between what you were doing then, 2 hours, 2.5 hours from here, and around this area? Is there much that's different?
Wow. I mean, that's a big question. Well, I think, I think all areas have unique properties to them, but I think that, the thing that connects everything is music. And I've always been really fortunate to, like, once I got to a certain level of proficiency on my main instrument, which is bass. If you don't know who I am, you may not know what I play, but most people know me as a bass player. And once I got good enough, a lot of people would get me to be in their house bands to host open mics, or, as an acoustic thing, I'd be part of a duo hosting open mics. And I just feel really, really lucky. I mean, I think open mics are pretty similar wherever you go. I've been lucky to hit some in Arizona, and always try to whenever I'm anywhere.
It's a
that I
good
have
way
the
to
time
stay grounded, for sure. Yeah, I mean, we're all big open mic fans in this studio right now.
Oh, yeah.
It is really a good way if you are a creator, if you're a musician in particular, comedian, very similar to a musician. Like there's a lot of overlap there. They've run in the same kind of similar tight fashion in their own orbiting worlds for a long time. But in a similar way, there's a community that fosters. And when you have new stuff, it's a really great way to bring it out and see if you're representing it correctly before going and asking paying customers to show me something incredible. Like, it's a great place to figure all that stuff out.
Yeah.
Then bring it, Now I'm asking you for a ticket price. I mean, you better give them a good reason to get a babysitter, most likely. Pull themselves away from Netflix or Disney Plus or Hulu or YouTube.
Dinner and drinks.
Yeah.
And
All of the other things you could be doing for people to still come out and see music. Like, it really is kind of that proof. Just like comedy, there's still a strong demand for that connection and that local kind of, we're all connected. And that's why I was getting at more with, how is it similar? How is it different from there to here? Because I had a similar entry. I mean, I've been playing music forever, same, I'm sure. But when I came out more around the bigger music community, it was at an open mic. I was asked to be a house drummer, and it was at the Chit Chat down in Haverhill, Mass.
I've heard of it.
It became a big one. Every single Tuesday night, it was packed front to back, and there were bands upon bands upon bands that would go, and it wasn't like 2 or 3 or 10 or 11 singer-songwriters. When you have a house band, a lot of times you pull away the restrictor, the barrier. If I want to get a whole band, I need to put a drum set there, and at least a bass amp and a guitar amp. Extra guitar amp, maybe a keyboard or something, because as soon as you can, the singer-songwriter most likely wants to go out and sing some songs. If he asks the drummer, he or she asks the drummer, and the drummer's like, is there a kit there? I don't want to move my kit. So if there's a kit there and I can just show up with my sticks, so now you've got the singer and the drummer, the guitar player, singer, drummer. All you have to do is get the bass player on board, and bass player is most likely going to be down. They're pretty chill people typically. And then you instead of having one singer-songwriter, you have a 4, 5, 6-piece band. When all the bands are getting together to hang out and drink once a week, all the other bands come. So now,
because I mean, if you build it, they will come, right?
Right. What do we want to do? We want a social outlet where we can hang out. It's not on, the best open mics, I find anyway, they're not on like a Friday night, Saturday night, or whatever. Those are show nights, stay off of people's toes, they're trying to book. But a Monday night mic, a Tuesday night mic particularly, like Tuesday night mic that's where it's at. Because you get Monday out of the way, and you go to sleep Monday night and not do anything. But Tuesday, you spend all day looking forward to it. Like, I'm going to go have 1.2 drinks, or no drinks at all. I'm going to have cranberry spritz, and then I'm going to get up on stage and play. But like, when that community really comes together, there's nothing like it. It's incredible.
It really is, and I think what's different in my experience, between the places where I've been involved in the open mic scene to some degree or another, because certainly when I've bounced back and forth between New Hampshire and Vermont, like the lower half of the Connecticut River Valley is where I've spent most of my life, either on one side or the other of it.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that is I mean, every town has its own kind of flavor,
Charm,
like socially, you know, just kind of like old mill towns
Sure.
feel one way, and like college towns will feel another way.
You can tell when GE had a plant and pulled out, that kind of a town.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of different things, and I think Vermont kind of has its own flavor to it, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's the aspect of the different places where I've lived and worked as a musician, more than the actual are musicians different in one place or another. I don't find that to be as much the case. I think, you know, that artists are artists,
Yeah.
probably wherever you put them,
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
you know.
I run into a lot as I travel, and I'm always looking for who's creating, who's doing something, who's the
Yeah,
weirdo. And usually you find the artists when you find the weirdos.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is not to say that all weirdos are artists. Some of them are just crazy people taking pictures of bags, and that's fine too.
Sure.
But like when somebody is doing something, I was talking with Darien about this earlier. When somebody's doing something that's genuine and unique, and it doesn't sound like, I can't put my thumb on it. It doesn't sound like anything. But it sounds sweet and appealing, like there's something really great about it or something really different about it. Usually you've found a creator. You've found somebody who's taking a whole new approach, a different way of looking at it. It sounds like Primus. What genre is Primus?
Sure.
I have no idea. But
Yeah.
you know, it's okay, so how does a person properly sing? Is it Les Claypool? It depends on who you ask. Probably not.
It
but
depends what the feel is of
yeah,
the piece.
totally. But it doesn't sound like anything else. It sounds super, super unique, which means you've found a creator. That's, I find, interesting. When you find a creator, dig through everything they've done. That's one of my favorite things. I call it spider webbing. Like you find somebody who is on a project that you particularly like, and then you figure out what on that project is the thing that's really sticking out to you. Say it's the bass, and then you find out who the bass player is and what else they've done, and then you just jump from project to project to project and
Yeah.
see that person's course through music change, and like how are they approaching, when were they doing stuff.
Yeah. I try to loan it out to everyone that I really, you know, enjoy hanging out with and whatever. And I loaned it to a fellow bassist who is involved in the scene in Portsmouth Monday nights at Napolitana, and he's kind of a bass player, kind of plays some drums too. And in his book Beyond the Bass Clef, Tony Levin talks about it's basically a collection of stories of his life playing music, starting from when he was really young through whenever the book came out, and he just at the end he's got this discography that's like 4.5 pages long, and that's just regular page, you know, reading page type.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, what? You played with Alice Cooper on 3 albums? You played with Paul Simon? You were in the movie One Trick Pony? I mean, he's just done all these, you know, a lot of people know him as depending on one's taste in music, as the guy in King Crimson.
Yeah.
Which is true.
True.
But he's also
Tons
on
of
retainer
other stuff.
for Peter Gabriel.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Like Dave Grohl, the fabled singer of Foo Fighters.
The
He's
chief
not
fighter of Foo.
He does that, yes, but he's a drummer, and when he first popped off, he was not new. Like he was simultaneously the hottest drummer in the Pac Northwest, and he was like touring on his own. He would go from bands in Washington, Oregon, down into California, and then back.
Fill in for different.
It was just tons, and he was in I think 12 simultaneous. He was basically the Pac Northwest's Rick Habib, you know,
Yeah.
local shout out, drummer extraordinaire, guy's an absolute legend.
Yeah.
Definitely want to get him on here. But that was basically Grohl. But when you say like, where did he come from? People say Nirvana. He was a drummer, and that's like where it stops. That's not true at all. That's you.
Yeah.
He was
Right.
in dozens of bands, and you can go listen to his whole. But or you could just say, I really like listening to what he's doing right now. And that's fine.
Yeah, it's all.
Once you've
all
heard it
fine.
all, right?
Yeah, it's all fine because that's the great thing about art is like I think excuse me, that a lot of maybe non-artists are not. I think a lot of people just don't know that they don't know. It's like people when they walk into a club and see a band playing, they don't know that you may have even started last night loading your car up. They don't know
Oh yeah,
all
no,
the,
I know
you know
what
what I
you're
mean?
saying. Yeah,
So
the amount
when,
of time that goes into it.
yeah, so when a listener discovers a player, you know, and that player really speaks to them, they're finding him there. But people aren't fully formed when another person finds them.
Yeah.
You know, there's always a backstory. There's
Oh, yeah.
always a
Where's it all come from?
whatever, yeah, you know, and it's
Really,
different
it's
for everyone.
people that are inquisitive are the ones that are going to ask that question, though. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
people who, that, like I'm saying, that's something that's a weird fixation of mine. Is I don't start where you show me. I mean, that's maybe where I find out who you are or what it is that you're doing, but
Yeah.
I'm already past that entrance point, trying to figure out what it is that makes you unique. What is it that you're bringing to the table?
What went into you that makes you sound the way you do?
Yeah, that too, very very much like
That's-
the
yeah.
typical type of player that you are, or what you show. You know, I can typically pretty accurately figure out what school of music you come from, who some of your influences were, the teachers that taught you, and who taught those people, because it all kind
Yeah.
of tracks through.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the progression.
It all builds on itself.
But
you know,
that's
it's like
so what I find. Tell me if I'm wrong, from your perspective. What I've found is when you find a path in a person's ability, their competency, do things stick out to you that lead you to their actual creativity, their voice? And when you find that, do you pull that thread? Do you understand? Or do you want me to color it a little bit more? I don't want to over-explain, but
right. No.
like you can see somebody performing with the utmost of confidence, and the way that they're playing technically is perfect or pristine. You can tell kind of, are they of the, to use classical or something, or you could use death metal if you want, it doesn't really matter. Like, are you coming into this metal project from the Northeast, you know, Western Massachusetts, or are you more like Iowa? Or are you Skarsgård? You know, you can kind of hear where the different, but if they are technically perfect and there's nothing that you're going to look at and be like, well, that's not really all that appealing because this was done subpar. If all things are equal and their performance is perfect, does it become more and more clear to you as the years pass what a person's influences were enough so that when you see something truly unique, it sticks out like a sore thumb? Because I'm finding the prick on the finger when you're running your finger over like a person's catalog and when what they're doing, those are sticking out more and more. And it's like, oh, that was unique. That was really cool what you just did there. That's a fresh take.
I don't know. You know, I never something can sound like it came from somewhere, but I would never know, obviously, unless I got to talk with the person or whatever. Like I'm I guess that's another way of saying like I'm very much not a presumptuous person when it comes to music, because I often feel like whatever it is I do that is a thing for somebody is not like, it doesn't, I don't feel like I've never felt very unique. I've always felt like if I can do this, like anybody can do this. It's just a matter of what somebody's specific situation or parameters are in life to be able to put in the time one would need to develop a personality and a voice in their art, whatever that art is.
You don't feel that you've done that yet?
I know. What I'm saying is I just don't feel that I'm terribly unique. I mean, some people are like, wow, that was awesome. And I'm like, yeah, but you should have heard what I was hearing in my head that I didn't even come close to.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
That's interesting too.
So if I can do this, I mean, I'm just another human being, and I've always felt like really particularly humbled when I've met some incredible musicians that I, have always looked up to, and find out that they're just people.
I find that's the way that you can get them to not run away, is you just treat them like they're regular people. But yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah, and actually, it's sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I think that a lot of them too get touched when you just tell them, hey man, I really, or woman or whatever, whoever it is,
Sure.
I really dig your stuff,
Yeah.
and that just is like, wow.
I agree with that, and I try to make it a point to do that. Like, I don't want to gloat on it. I don't want to like harp on it, because a lot of the people are not good at taking compliments. It's been a battle for me to ever take a compliment. I immediately change the subject.
I know,
Or make a joke about it, or because
It's like, what?
I know what I'm surrounded by is really the thing, and it's that I'm not trying to be self-deprecating, but I feel like I'm always just barely convincing enough to fool really good players. That's like I can fool normies all day long. They think that they think I'm a great drummer, like I'm really incredible, and I'm like, you don't know what I know that I don't know, and you don't know that I know these people, because, good God, Mike Walsh and I are not the same thing. Rick Habib and I are not the same thing. We can do some of the same stuff, and we use similar instrumental setup. So people are like, "You're a drummer like him," and I'm like, "Okay." It's not interesting enough for you, for me to explain to you right now why that's hitting me weird. But what I've gotten to is I acknowledge what you just said. Thank you for saying that. But moving right along.
Oh man, it's just like going out to a restaurant and going, wow, this is really good. Like, I don't necessarily want to slave over a hot stove in the middle of summer and like measure out all the ingredients and make it come out exactly like that cook did,
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with music, or, I would just never have like the patience to be a classical sculptor. Like, I find the work amazing, but I'm utterly clueless as to how they do, what tools they use to get the detail that they get.
Yeah.
It's like I kind of am good with that. Like, I'm good with not knowing, because I have enough of an understanding of art to be able to appreciate things that I don't understand. But then, like you said, normies, I think we're talking about like people that may like live music but are not.
Don't play.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Here they are. Without these folks, taking Seacoast Entertainer to the next levels wouldn't be happening. Not to this scale. Tangram 3DS actively supports our music and arts scene and has proudly been part of it for the last 20 years. Their creative pros bring vision to life with everything from 3D renderings and VR to video, animation, web design, and branding. As a team of artists living and working on the Seacoast, Tangram considers a thriving local culture essential to us all for the connections we make, communities we build, and creativity we foster. Visit Tangram3ds.com to learn more, see their work, and imagine what they can do for you.
You just said you like not knowing. I used to go to shows. I'm like a music fan. I'm a musician, but I'm also a diehard and avid music fan since the time I could walk. I've been putting music on, listening to music, picking apart music, analyzing, spider webbing. My favorite thing to do is find out, oh my God, I remember the feeling that I used to get when I was like, that guy looks a lot like the guy from that band. And somebody told me they're the same guy. And I was like, you can do that? Is that allowed? That's amazing. And then it just turned into, what else you got? What else did you do? Because I want to find that unique stuff, that new stuff. That's my flavor, is I don't recognize this. Show me what this is. But yeah, going to a show, I remember the show that I went to when I had finally played enough shows and been enough backstages and coordinated the shows, through them myself and all of that stuff. I walked into the Dover Brick House, and it was a show that I was super looking forward to. And I walked through the door, and it was still a smoky room. It was old days. And I remember the lights. I remember what was playing. The first time I didn't feel that magic of like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. You know, because I knew where the band was sitting, what they were doing, and what they were doing when they were getting ready, and that the bar back had just come back upstairs with more ice, and they're refilling the thing because the first wave of people moved through, and it just felt like a mechanism. It felt like an organism that was alive, and I knew all of the parts and what it was doing. And I went from being like an avid diehard showgoer to recognizing that there was a change, something had happened, but I didn't realize what had changed. You know, eventually I realized it was a shift in paradigm. Like, it was me going from being the person on the receiving side of that experience, the musical experience, to making sure that others have that experience.
Yes.
So I hadn't lost my enjoyment of shows per se. It was that I changed, I evolved.
Or deepened your appreciation.
Sure.
Because you now had personal experience.
Yeah.
Being the person that people
Took me a little while though.
spend money to go see.
Yeah, took me a little while. And it was a solid few months where I was a little bit nervous. Am I ever going to enjoy going to a show again?
But it's an important distinction to make, and when
music.
you understand that, I found for me anyway, it definitely deepened my appreciation for what people do on stage.
Yeah. Now, do you get what I mean when I'm saying that? Do you get the same satisfaction of putting on a show and seeing other people have that magic happen in front of them?
I
I think that's pretty universal.
That's why I do it.
Yeah.
I mean, 1,000%, dude. Like, that's, yeah. I mean, and you talk about spider webbing, and for me, before I think I wanted to be a musician, but I really didn't know the amount of work that goes into it. And when I was a kid, I would wait in bus stations for the bus to take me from one parent to. They lived like an hour. They lived. I should enunciate better. They lived an hour and a half away, so there was a lot of time on the weekends in bus stations and sitting at my mom making sure that me and my sister sat as far up front to be away from the smoking section in the back of the Greyhound
Naturally,
bus.
yeah, because people still smoked on buses.
Oh yeah, the ashtrays. Yeah.
There's a whole solid generation of people raising kids right now that don't remember the ashtrays in the arms of the buses and the planes and stuff.
Yeah.
That feels weird. And that's like scrolling back a long ways to select your year of birth.
In
those like online forms. I'm like, I've been scrolling a while now.
Yeah, it's like Price is Right. You
just keep
grab
going.
on and just not yet. Like, oh geez. But
so your parents are divorced also.
Yeah. So I would sit in bus. I would look at the magazines, and the guy that stuck out to me the most. I mean, and this is, early '80s, and so there was like Hit Parader, Circus Magazine, Cream Magazine, and the guy that always really struck me was Eddie Van Halen. Like, if I had to pick one person that really made me want to, like, I was definitely into music, but when I started reading those magazines and I started seeing him, I mean, some of those scissor kicks going, it looked like he was at 20 feet in the air, and he had the biggest smile in the world on his face. I'm like, that looks like fun.
So what you just said to me, multiple things point to the thing that you get most out of your experience and your interaction with music is the performance side of things, showing people, giving people the experience of being a part of something that catches a spectacle, rather than sitting and toiling alone with a notepad, writing out notes and.
Right, well, that's the part of it I never saw. So it was like, oh, that looks like a lot of fun. Had no clue about the work that went into it.
Because Eddie Van Halen is a guy that he galvanizes. You can tell people who are way into Eddie Van Halen, like coming up when they're early players all the way through on stage, there's always an element of theatrics. There's always like something about giving that live stage presence to the crowd. That's you usually get it in with those people.
It's palpable. I mean, you can see it, like it's really obvious. You know?
I notice that when I see you on stage, when you are the most comfortable, simply as a matter of fact, I'm here to rock. Like we're going to do a thing, and you're going to enjoy it because you enjoy it, and yet I mean that is infectious. When you see a musician,
it's energy, man.
It's
all energy.
Let's pass that energy around at a show. A lot of people who go to a lot of shows know that there's an energy. And it's kind of like when you're in a crowd, if it's like an activist or there's a movement or, somebody has an ism behind their cause or whatever. Like when you get around a rally of people, there's an intensity. And politicians super feed off it. When you go to their rallies, they say whipping the base when you get political. That's what they mean, is like you are sheep and they're whipping you into position, but you're engaging in it willingly. When you go to a concert.
Well, I mean, as far as
exactly.
Want to believe
semi-willingly. But when you go to a concert, when you find festival goers particularly, they're a heroin version. They're like they are as potent as it goes with what I'm talking about here. But like someone who just likes to go to music and flow with it and move with it and kind of dance around a little bit, or even just be ultra white and sit there very quietly, but inside there's all kinds of electricity dancing. However you enjoy music, totally fine. But you always recognize there is some kind of a vibe here that's either being created and I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
There's energy passed around. Or it's just not there. I think it's probably usually mostly not there when it feels forced, if I stop and think about it. Like if the music just is uninspired and it's nobody believes in it, even the artist. Like if an artist is just going through the motions, I find it's hard to watch. When they're really reaching, when they're really taking chances, that's when I'm, I guess my attention is peaked.
I mean that's a loaded kind of statement. I mean, I think I can remember in the very earliest stages of playing in bands, the first band I was in was a folk trio, and there was a public television filming, and I was really new to being able to be good enough to be playing with other people in any kind of a performance setting. And I was super, super nervous, like unbelievably nervous.
Sure. Takes a lot of hours.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know, I mean, I definitely wasn't phoning it in, I could tell you that, but I think that not knowing every performer's individual story, like I have all the respect in the world for anybody that has those, for whatever reason, any nervousness about being on stage, because a lot of artists may not actually be the personality type that really feeds off of that aspect of.
Yeah, we call them studio musicians, or just writers. I know a lot of writers who just write songs and people buy them or don't.
Like we were talking about earlier, it's not necessarily, and other artists may be more comfortable in this kind of setting because there is no audience. I mean, the audience
Yeah, it's us.
are inanimate objects, and they're not going to throw things at them when they mess up.
So that's the fear.
I mean, so I get
That's the fear.
get that.
Please don't throw stuff at me.
Yeah,
Chicken wire fences up. That's again Iowa. We're in the Midwest now. That's
I don't think so, man. Those lights are off on purpose.
yeah, exactly. What's that flashing red light mean? Does that mean keep going? They're loving it. They're throwing beers at us. Guys, hold on to the beers, though. They're breaking on the chicken wire. I'll drink those beers when I get off.
Yeah, I mean, two movies that every musician should indoctrinate themselves with are Spinal Tap and the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, I was going to say the same, too.
That is...
Well, Airheads. Airheads you got to throw in there.
I probably need to watch that again.
You should.
'Cause I think that came out a little after my formative years,
Yeah.
of like when I was getting enamored with Eddie Van Halen, and like I was saying before, like I never knew anything about where he came from. It was just I was just seeing a snapshot in time,
Yeah.
frozen in time of him. But the more I learned about the music mechanically, the more I appreciated his journey to make the sounds that he was making, and he also knew a lot about the variac thing, like if you have on a dial a light dimmer switch, he for example, because electricity can vary a lot in different venues, and he had that problem of having a reliable way to get his sound, and that has to do with electricity.
Yeah.
So he made a variac knob to go on his amp, so that was never an issue. I mean, we have power conditioners now,
Sure.
and
Now, yeah.
a lot of that things that are not quite like that, but help you get consistent conditions, so that aspect of things is not going to be something that you have to fight when you're performing.
Yeah.
So the more I learned about him, the more even more interesting he became.
Yeah.
And the more
Knowledge.
about music itself, again, became more and more interesting.
Yeah, there were a lot of sides to him, which is why I think a lot of people, when a personality back when, I mean, to a lesser degree now, but there's YouTube personalities that have absolutely no reason to be personalities. But back in the day,
We'll get to that
if-
later. I'll
yeah.
tell you about a guy.
if you became a personality because you had merit, there was a weird spot where things transitioned, because it used to be in, like, as far as the 80s, early 90s, there was only 3 places where you could get media, entertainment, or whatever. After that, the internet explodes and everybody is reachable. But there was an in-between time period there where you could find people who were really, really good at what they did, but weren't really for you, or you found something that was unique about them, but somebody else found something else that was unique about them, and somebody else found something else that was unique about them. And these personalities all had merit from all different sides, and they were well-rounded, and there was like a lot of depth to them. And not saying all of them, but a lot of them, there was an awful lot of depth, and there were a lot of ways to come at it. So they would just naturally amass more and more and more people, because people are so varied, people are so different. Nowadays, it's a bit different. You can, really ride on one specific thing that you are or do, and you can get the same number of people following you. And it's not like there's no gatekeepers. That was up to the 80s, 90s. You had to go through the gatekeepers, David Letterman or Johnny Carson, or, the mouthpieces for the networks.
Friday Night Live.
Or to a different side of the entertainment world, the sitcom night, the hot sitcom nights were very important.
Yep.
You know, you had Friday nights, and you had Thursday nights. They were very, very important. Either Friends was there or Full House was there or something, but bands are a little bit similar back then versus now. Now it's not weird to know that there's like a whole bunch of different things that make up a greater scene, whereas you only had a certain amount of time to convey a thing, so you took the best of this, then the best of this, and then the best of this. You know, and it was kind of like it was more moderated for us. Now it's like a fire hose just blasting us.
It is. I think there's still gatekeepers, so to speak. I think that they just have changed.
Who do you think they are? If you were to like pause it,
Who's gonna you have to subscribe to some kind of social media. You have to have content that's
Okay.
not going to offend. You have to.
media. So media companies, social
I mean,
companies.
it's all about.
But you can
If
get on
there's a
YouTube.
way to make money, somebody is going to figure out that way.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, this reminds me. This aspect of the conversation reminds me of a thing that I read in Smithsonian. I was reading this article about how the digital world is affecting the music business, and it took you back 100 years and to when sheet music came out. People were like, "Oh no, people aren't going to want to, go see a performance. They're going to stay home and play these songs with the family around the piano
interesting.
because there's sheet music."
Interesting.
That came to pass. That didn't
Didn't end
kill
music.
the live performance. So then the radio comes out. Oh, well, people are going to stop buying sheet music and sit around the piano and play. Well, that didn't come to pass.
Yeah.
And so I think every generation or so, knowledge and technology begets knowledge and technology, right? And we get more and more modern. So obviously the curve took a long time to start to go up, but it's at a point now
think it's
where
on an
technology is really amazing. Like it really is.
Yeah.
And it can be used for a lot of good, but then it can have downsides too. So I think if I'm understanding the use of the term gatekeepers in a way that you mean it, I don't know that they're not sitting in the same office as they did in the 80s. They're not. They don't have maybe the same job title, but essentially they're kind of there's a force at work that determines who gets a lot of plays and who doesn't. Whatever that is may be a little more nebulous now and less rigidly defined.
So and rather than naming a person, you would say it's a entity or it's a channel, it's a theme or an idea. What is gatekeeping? Because anybody can access YouTube, anybody can
Sure.
access, any one of these sites and put stuff TikTok. Like there's musicians they don't have a career other than making music
Sure.
specifically for these little shorts and videos, and they're considered today's composers. Maybe
Sure.
not in every single circle, but they certainly deserve to be in the conversation because they're making music. Is it
Right.
new, creative? Are they a part of the creative community, or are they just filling a need? Filling a market need, which is little bits of song to put in silly videos of your dog farting or your wife dancing in front
Don't
of the
forget
camera. doing
cats,
some- Sure,
man.
cats.
I
are
know
doing-
you're a dog person,
Sure,
but cats
doing
matter.
all kinds of
Cats
weird
matter
stuff.
too.
Yep, cat lives matter. So if you have somebody making music for that, are they not the same thing? Or are they the same in being different, in that there's a whole slew of different people creating?
Sure, and I'm saying all this with the implicit, I hope, understanding that the social media and digital world is not a world that I am as familiar with as are a lot of people, and I think that some people eventually are never going to remember Smoky Clubs like you and I remember.
Sure.
So I think also, that, if you have the experiences you do and you're older and you keep living and you're used to the way that you came up, and so it's possible to learn about new things, but that experience is still going to remain
Sure.
your experience of how you know what I mean. So it's an interesting thing of how that colors one's perception of the world going forward. And I just there's a lot of things about my addictive personality that being online and being on social media and all that really plays into, and I have to be really careful with that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you know what I mean? Because I am.
Well, they
I'm an
know how to
addict.
get you.
I am a total addict.
Dude, they all know how. All of the media companies, the social media companies, they all know how to get you, and they play
Right.
on every single psychological idiom, every facet that you could possibly be, so that they can be the thing that is the gatekeeper, the thing that everybody has to access.
So-
They can be the Johnny Carson or whatever.
Right. So
but
it's
I would agree with you. It's important to engage with it on your own terms, and don't read the comments.
yeah. I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough. You know, it's a tough world because it's if you're used to having come up a certain way, a social media, somebody who's digitally native. I mean, man, that's.
Digitally native.
I mean, I think
good
it's a
point.
good term, you
It
know,
is.
because they have no memory of what anything was like.
I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. There's two, well, currently there's three simultaneous worlds living at the same time on the same planet, but they're in different worlds. And I exist in the between times.
It's a weird place
I
to be.
yeah, dude, it's talking with people that are 15, 20 years older than me, and talking with people that are 15 and 20 years younger than me. It becomes more and more apparent by the day that there was a huge shift as soon as the internet happened. Not like the telephone, not like the TV. Similar, it's in that vein, but
Sure.
in the theory of exponential growth, it's clear
Right.
that the internet is the first one that it's like, oh geez, now we're looking at jumps. Like it was, the quill and the parchment, and then it was
And then the printing press.
printing press really
And
blew
then-
everything up in a big way,
Right.
but radio blew it up in an even bigger way. And then
Well,
TV,
the telephone.
telephone,
though.
sure, the TV revolutionized everything.
And the telegraph, though, too. Remember it like that?
Sure.
I mean,
People forget this country. One of the reasons that this country was one of the fastest, or the fastest to rise in history, was because we had the postal service,
Yep.
and we had abilities to carry communications from one place to another very, very quickly,
Yes.
without complete danger of being intercepted and killed or taken advantage of or whatever. Like it was almost undoctored flow of information.
well, relative
Which-
to its time. And I think that
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
when we talk about modern developments in technology and capability. I think it's easy to because nobody we know was alive when the
Printing press
Morse
came
code
about.
was invented.
Oh my God!
or the
Yeah,
tel-
that
you know, I
feels
mean,
like forever ago.
But to people, you go back and read historical accounts of it was just like
What do you mean they couldn't communicate? No, I mean like that's what you would think is the people that are
Oh,
alive
right.
after the printing press
I
are like,
mean,
what do
it
you mean they
blew-
didn't
it
have
blew minds at
any
the
way to
time.
communicate? Like this is better, but how much better? And it's like, well, it's revolutionary.
at the
as
time that
much.
those things came out, it blew minds.
Yeah.
Like
So people that are living then were raised by people that had no concept of something as big and powerful as the internet ever conceivably happening.
sure,
Those
but for their
people-
times, it was the biggest thing to have ever happened.
True. And then, so we have those people living, and then we have people simultaneously living who, they don't know a time when there wasn't a screen in front of their face.
Right.
I know what it was like to go to the library or to look up. I grew up fortunate in that my family had the full Encyclopedia Britannica as well.
Yeah.
My dad's a doctor, mom's a nurse, so we had tons of medical texts.
Oh wow.
I could look stuff up constantly.
Yeah.
That's weird. because people that are younger, like they were born in 2005, 2006, like they've always been, what do you mean you weren't able to look it up?
Sure.
Like, didn't you? Well, there was no way to look it up. If you didn't know, you didn't know. And you were just like, meh, that's a thing I don't know.
Or what's a CD?
Or what's, yeah. Well, that holds
Wait.
how much? How much?
I have like milk crates full of them in the basement. What do you mean, what's a CD?
You mean coasters?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I like coasters.
yeah.
I got a lot of them.
I mean, yeah, it's,
But there's that cusp, right? 78 to like 82, 83. Some people say 84. But I remember a time when you almost didn't want to be friends with somebody that had a lot of nines and zeros in their phone number, because if you mistake on a zero towards the end of a long telephone number, you got to hang it up and do it all over again. It's like, 9, 7, 8. Like, you give me the low numbers and we can be friends. And it's got to be easy. If I can't remember that thing now, we're just like, call Ben. And my phone's like, do you want this Ben, or this Ben? It's like, Butterworth, thank you. And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just calls you.
Hi everyone, Sean with Seacoast Entertainer. I hope you're already enjoying one of the greatest communities in the world, and in the homes of that community on social media, like Seacoast Music Scene groups of New Hampshire, Maine, and Massachusetts, and the fastest growing new group, Lakes Region Music Scene, all on Facebook, and at Seacoast Entertainer on IG, as well as Seacoast_Tainer on X. That's in addition to the shows we've been hosting or sponsoring around the region, like Jam of Legends, Writers in the Round, and these podcasts you're listening to now. And this is only the beginning. We're growing, and it takes a lot of work behind the scenes. As anyone who has built a business or organization will tell you, it is effort. When it's entirely volunteer driven, it is devotion. Devotion, though, doesn't pay the bills, and building a world-class website comes with bills. Fortunately, we have a community leader who has stepped up to help as an in-kind sponsor to cover the vast development costs. We could use more. A website as robust and feature-rich as the one they're building us has a lot of services backing it up in order to give you the experience in following the arts you didn't realize you were missing. We'll need to cover the costs of these services. Things like a stream of content from your favorite local artists from the popular social sites, fed to one central location outside the confines of those services, and a calendar populated with schedules of upcoming events across the region. Certainly, not least, is real journalism will make a return to the Seacoast under the leadership of our editor-in-chief, Christopher Hislop. With this comes all of our favorite pieces like 5 Spot and Spotlight. One of my favorite undertakings in all of this is the Musicians Archive, a constantly expanding archive of the musicians and bands who have come before and those who are just getting their stage legs. We all know that we're standing on the shoulders of giants here, so we'll pay tribute to as many as we can identify. From the ultra-popular like Say Zuzu, Thanks to Gravity, The Press Project, and Fly Spinach Fly, to wildly impactful artists whose names you've never heard. When you hear me reading ad copy for businesses, know this: they're paying actual money to support our amazing way of life, engaging with this gift to humanity, the arts.
Thing where there's multiple generations living simultaneously that don't, the younger one doesn't, they're starting to get it. Like, okay, we're living in a thing where there was just there's no way to reconcile. There's no understanding necessarily what these people lived through. But I think there was a time there where people just thought this was just always, and this is just normal. I think the younger kids now are getting it. There's like, okay, so there's massive paradigm shifts that are happening.
awareness in one's place in the universe, I think, takes time to learn,
Yeah,
you know, and
truly.
there's always, I think, an aspect of the generation before or the generation before that is, one has to understand that they will never really understand it. But if, like, I feel really, really, really lucky that I've had old relatives, you know, that I
Yeah.
spent time with. Like, I knew my great-grandfather.
Great-grandmother for me.
I
Spent
mean,
all
it
kinds
was-
of time talking.
And, you know, yeah, it's really incredible to
Great uncle too.
that. I mean, that's a blessing. And like, my grandmother died in 19 at 101, you know, so
It's good genes.
yeah, well,
Was she drinking
hopefully.
brandy and smoking cigarettes the whole way through?
No,
Okay.
no, she didn't smoke, but she certainly didn't plan on it, you know. She was just like,
That's the thing about getting old, right? It's just you didn't die yet.
Yeah.
I found people are basically the exact same. People are very, very similar. Every single person is kind of like a kid, but at a different age. Like we've all just been alive different lengths of time. Some of us are similar to each other's age, but the thing that you kind of learn in your early 40s is there are no adults on this planet. Everybody is just a person at a different level of development or a different time
Sure.
period here. And when someone is 98, we're like, man, you really haven't died yet, huh? And they're like, not yet. And they've got this really hilarious sense of humor about it.
Oh my God! So there was a thing at my grandfather who passed like 20-something years, 25 years before his wife, my
Yeah,
grandmother.
that's rough.
He taught at Hartford College for Women. He was a professor there, and he wrote his most famous book was called The Enormous Egg, and that's a whole other
The enormous ass.
yeah, it's we'll talk after about it. It came out in the 50s
Yeah.
in McCarthyism and everything, and it's about, I mean, there's a lot of his kids in it, you know. They live on a farm, and his, the dad's son goes out with him one morning to check the eggs in the chicken coop, and there's this really big egg, and out of it hatches a triceratops.
That's not normal.
Yeah.
You don't expect to find that.
It's a cool story, and you can definitely find it on the interwebs.
Yeah, it's out there.
It's out there. So at the Hartford College for Women, there was a big 100th birthday party for my grandmother, and she was sitting. She's just, you know, she looked old at that point, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
didn't get around as much, you know. But she was still very, very sharp, and she's saying, you know, everybody's talking about these stories, like in there was a movie about Martin Luther King, and they're on the bridge, you know, and somebody had called, somebody in the day's events had called the Capitol, and my grandmother was there with she was a teacher, maybe, I think, at the time, and had a bunch of students and was teaching them about, it was like a civics class kind of thing,
Yeah.
and they were on a school tour, and they were seeing, I don't know, maybe somebody involved in that situation, and the phone call came in. So when that scene came up in the movie, she was like, hey, I was there.
No kidding, yeah.
You know, and she saw so much in 101 years, but at her 100th birthday party, she just cracked this joke once, like these kinds of gatherings are great because it's like going to your own memorial. You know, and only somebody who's 100 years old
Yeah.
can get away with it.
Yeah.
And everybody just laughed.
And the
you know.
60-year-olds are uncomfortable because they don't want to think about it yet, and all of the other 90-year-olds are
I
like,
mean,
that's
it
the
just
funniest thing I've ever
through
heard.
all of that, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just funny, like.
And right at the end, you have a whole bunch of younger people watching the dynamics all unfold. And could it possibly be any better than watching young people figure it out along the way? It's entertaining. I mean, you got to find entertainment wherever you can.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like I think that's why humanity needs art, because it's so much about just the simple act of living is so there are so many difficulties in that. I'm trying to think of the most generalized way to say this without being
Cliche.
homogenized,
Okay.
if you will.
Yeah.
That I think that it's kind of a balm, you know. I don't want to say an escape, because trying to escape your problems isn't really, you're going to wake up the next day and they're still going to be there.
Yeah.
But I think it's a way of trying to mess with things and trying to just make sense of the world around you, or just get some relief. It can mean
Art therapy.
so many different things for so many different people,
Yeah.
you know. And I don't know, I think the great thing about I've always stayed involved in open mics, because I'll never forget that when people were cool to me at open mics, that it really made me want to improve my playing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that really how the open mic came to be dumped in my lap was, Bogies was one of the first places that started having live music again when things first started opening up. And I knew the guy who ran it from an open mic he had run pre-COVID. So I just really kind of just needed to get back out. And so we were still loading in through the back with masks on and everything. And then there was just some weird thing with the owner got married and his wife took over the booking part of that so he could focus on the kitchen and everything. And there was just some...
The whole thing.
Yeah, some weirdness.
But they made it work.
All I knew was, like, one week I was going to support him, and then, like, the next week it's like, Ben, can you host, you know, the second and every fifth, when there's a fifth Wednesday, you know, and I'm like, geez, I guess I need to flesh out my acoustic list so I can do 3 hours solo, because what if nobody comes?
Well, you got to have something to carry it through.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's an art to it. There's a whole big thing that goes along with it.
But I felt like nervous, but not as nervous as like the first time I was on a public TV, you know, pre-recorded broadcast. Like that was truly scary. Like I was like, oh, but you know, having those years of experience in between, like I knew more what I had to do to prepare myself.
Which means you can help to give something to emulate. If you
It's
just
been
do
the-
it by the right, you know, measure. If you
It's been the
show
best
what it
gift.
can be, others find the way along. Yeah, and there's a path, and I think the open mic is that. And I couldn't speak more highly about it. Why don't you tell everybody everything that you're a part of, everywhere they can find you?
Oh my God!
If that's even possible, but
Offhand.
definitely, you know.
I left all my. I had.
What's the next
I
handful of
digress.
shows you got?
I digress really easily, but I have a folder that has all my current set lists in it.
Yeah,
It's a regular, you know, actual paper
yeah.
folder. For some reason, I don't know if that's because I'm not digitally native. That just seems to work better for me.
I have a notes folder in my, like, there's all of the different notes for all of the different groups that I play with or things that I need to know.
Yeah.
Right down to the signature that it's in, the rough cadence, the how the snare is, which sticks I'm using, is it brush song, like all of that stuff. I have it all in here though.
And I'm self-taught, so my notes, like, somebody else would look at them and just be like,
I get a
does
lot
that
of funny
even
words
mean?
in there
You
too.
know,
Yeah,
it's like-
I'm with you on that one.
you know,
But what, like, so the next handful of shows, where can they find you? Are you on socials? Do you like allow people to follow you?
oh,
or
absolutely, stalk me on
Anyone that's
Facebook.
interested. Ben Butterworth.
Yes, and thank you for not putting an S in there, because when people say Buttersworth,
Buttersworth. I was trying to figure out where's the S go. There's a lot of hilarious places
South
to
Park.
put an S in there. Yeah.
South Park,
Buttersworth.
South Park.
Okay.
It's like, no, it's not. Just talking maple syrup jar anyway. You know, it's like,
Butterworth.
you don't know. But it's.
Eventually, you're going to be showing your age on that. Eventually, people aren't going to know who Miss Buttersworth is.
Did I hear it?
Thanks for coming to hang out, man. I can sit and talk with you for hours and hours, and we're getting the high sign from producers that people may.
So
want us to
Facebook
wrap.
and Insta, I just got a call to fill in for a AC/DC tribute band. So I just picked up half a dozen shows
Right
from
on.
now to the end of the year. I'm
What's that
filling
called?
in-
Are you allowed to say any of this stuff?
I don't even remember the name of the band.
Oh, you
I
are
just know, like, I got
just-
a set list. I mean,
I told you
that's
people
something-
this guy is a hired gun. He is a hot commodity. Go find out wherever he's playing. Ben Butterworth. I know you're playing
Can
with
I show my Being Petty card, or can you?
Being Petty, yeah, right
That's
there.
my main gig, man. That's what I feel like a lot of my life has led up to,
Is Being Petty.
is being in this band, you know, and it's like we were talking about before. I mean, I feel really lucky. I've in my lifetime I've gotten to record probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 albums of original music, and all different.
That's awesome.
So I feel like I feel really lucky to have had such a well-rounded thing, in my lifetime playing music. But being petty I feel like people are spending, $30 a ticket,
Yeah.
and they want a show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so we have
gotta
to
perform.
I've always felt like from when I first started working with tribute bands, probably 4 or 5 years ago, if I don't play that bass line exactly what I hear, if I don't play that right, it's not going to sound right. And people are spending money, so I kind of feel like it's an obligation to do my work.
Yeah, that's the thing
And
about a
learn the
tribute
part.
band, right?
And in the tribute band, our Tom guy
Yeah.
has all the guitars,
Oh,
the
yeah.
teardrop box, he's got a
he's a
65 country gentleman. He's got like legit antique guitars,
Yeah.
and everybody in the band. Our drummer tunes the Ludwig kit exactly how Stan Lynch tuned his.
Yeah, it's important. A tribute band, people that aren't into music as deep as we aren't aware there's a difference between a cover band and a tribute band. A tribute band is by the note, by the attitude, by the inflection, everything, all the
of it
dynamics.
has to be
Everything has to be exactly
there.
perfect because it is a tribute. A cover band is a band who plays kind of their way, but they play these songs and they do them as close as they can or whatever.
Sure.
And there's just a little bit more relaxed attitude. A tribute band, when you go to spend money, you're basically going to see an artist who is highly respected, and they show their respect for the artist in the way that they play their music. And you definitely do that with Being Petty. All of the people in Being Petty do that. They 100% capture Tom Petty. And Hilton is a incredible musician.
They're
Always has been.
fixtures around here. I just feel so lucky to have.
It's wild how talented some of these people are. It's incredible. I'd love to have him on and talk with him. I mean, like, I really love Hilton Park.
I know a guy.
Yeah, oh yeah. You got that
I know
connection.
a few.
Well, yeah, he and his kid. I mean, they're really just
yeah.
tremendous players. Brian Kelly, phenomenal player. Like, really.
Forget about it. Yeah.
Incredible guy also. But yeah, there's
Yeah.
those people get out and see shows. You're in the Seacoast of New Hampshire, if you're around the Seacoast of New Hampshire, if you're within an hour, really. So that's Portland down to Boston over to Concord. Everybody should be pouring in and looking for these shows.
I just want to say one more thing about how grateful I am to have been so welcomed here. Like, it started at Old School for me.
Yeah.
And I met, Pete Peterson,
Oh,
Rick
sure.
Watson, and started to play with Tim Terrio. Did it for a while, So I met and worked with a lot of these people, and I just feel so lucky to have been so welcomed in such a amazing scene. Not that the Upper Valley around Dartmouth College area wasn't amazing,
Sure.
but this
There's something weird about
has
it.
a feel. Like,
Yeah.
I lived in Putney. I lived in Putney, Vermont, and I
Yeah.
lived in Keene, New Hampshire, and there were scenes at those times in all these places, but this has, in my experience, in my humble experience, has a definite thing to it, and it's really special, you
Yeah.
know. And I just want to thank you and everybody for the opportunity to
Hell yeah, man.
express my gratitude.
Absolutely. I'm trying to literally just do justice and capture some spark of it so people can understand who aren't in this area, and at least capture some of it, because the brilliance that comes and goes in this area, some of it gets caught and some of it doesn't. And
Well,
our
that's-
goal with Seacoast Entertainer is to capture it all, archive it all, and let people see what it is, because there is something really incredible about the way that this scene turns into a culture, turns into a movement. And I think that a lot of places could emulate some very simple things that we're doing here. And that what we're doing isn't necessarily unique. It's kind of recognizing that the gatekeepers of old are gone, and all it takes is for us to support each other. And the internet multiplies reach like crazy. So if everyone else is into the same thing, which is looking out for each other and supporting people and not trying to be cutthroat kills everything. Like, there's space for everybody.
Screw that. Like,
There's no
that's-
reason
I wanted to
anymore.
thank you for mentioning the open mic that I run, and
Oh, please do mention everything that supports what you're doing, like, because
Open
you're
mics.
such a supportive person in this culture.
I go to other people's open mics.
Hell yeah.
I continue to, always have, and I always will, because I know what that meant to me when I was learning how to play my instrument, and I think that it's important to pay it forward.
Well, let's think of some of the ones that are open, and we'll leave on this. Monday nights, what do you got?
So for what I know, I mean, I was involved in getting the Napolitana off the ground, and it's great to see that it's still going. And
I see them post every now and then in
I
Seacoast
got
music scene. Yep.
so busy with all this fill-in work coming in. Like I'm working with a modern country / hard rock band as well. So it's called Texas Pete.
Texas
and,
Pete, I've heard of it.
It's
Awesome.
I'm just like, my brain is so all over it's like if I'm not sitting down at home with a bass in my hand reading through somebody else's set list,
Yeah.
I feel like there's something wrong,
Compulsive,
because I'm
yeah.
I'm not reviewing the Being Petty list, which we have 4 regular shows. We have a special show coming up for the 30th anniversary of the Wildflowers album release.
Oh, good.
Tickets will be on sale for it, but it's going to be in Elliott. Follow us on social media to get
Look for
more.
that.
We have also a show which we're doing we have these booze cruise shows coming up.
Yeah.
Show You is the ultimate. It's going to be for that. It's going to be for, we're going back to the Hampton Beach Seashell stage.
Yeah,
That's going to be, what it means is the ultimate show. It's like just getting all the hits throughout the years.
Awesome.
40 years of amazing songwriting and playing. It's just such a wide catalog,
Yeah.
There's a never-ending list of amazing songs to learn, and I feel so lucky, but I feel a little frazzled sometimes.
Yeah, sure. Staying on top of it all is pretty difficult when you're as busy a person as you are. Really, thank you very much for coming out and talking.
It is, but I feel honored, truly, to have been asked.
Oh, absolutely, man.
To do
We
this.
didn't get through a whole list of people that are doing shows or doing open mics. Tuesday nights.
So
Who's doing
that's
Tuesday
Monday,
nights?
Napolitana, and then I think Earth Eagle.
Earth
the
Eagle,
original,
Portsmouth.
in Portsmouth
It's
has
Tuesday night.
It's Tuesday.
it
I
is,
thought it
isn't
was
it?
Monday.
I think they're Tuesday.
Are they?
I think so.
Okay.
Tuesday is, I believe, Ryan Lavasser is bringing back the open mic at the Brick. I think they're calling it now.
Really?
Yeah.
Good to know.
Wednesday night, Auspicious Brew and Stripe 9.
Tuesdays has the Clipper Tavern.
Clipper
with-
Tavern.
with JoJo.
Tuesday. Okay.
Who's fantastic. She's a great host.
Oh, is Cup of Joe still Tuesday? Or were they
that
Wednesday?
what Cup of Joe was Wednesday, but as far as I know, I don't think they're doing
Stopped
it.
after Andrew.
Yeah, but it was on Wednesdays.
Okay, but Bogies is Wednesday.
Bogies is Wednesday. There's the one in Somersworth on Wednesday. What's the name of that place?
Stripe 9.
Stripe 9.
Yeah, with the middlemen.
Fantastic host
I
band.
hear unbelievable good things, but that's one of those
yeah.
ones where there's always a full back line. So
Yep.
the drummer can come out with the singer songwriter with
yeah.
with the whole band. Bring the whole band.
Yep, there's a bass. All the rigs are there.
It's all there. Just
Plug in and play.
bring your drinking shoes and play some songs. And then Thursday nights, of course, we have Earth Eagle North in Somersworth. Thursday is also, well, it was, oh, I'm thinking of I thought at the press room was Thursday night also at one point, wasn't it?
I feel like,
That's
yes,
gone.
that's gone through some
Yeah.
iterations since they reopened with new owners.
Yeah, I don't know what's
Okay.
going on there. I haven't stopped in a whole heck of a lot at the press room yet. I spent a bunch of time there in past, but
Yeah.
I haven't stopped back through.
I did some things out on the patio with another guy named Ben that I used to, pre-COVID, we worked with Dad, AKA Pete Peterson.
Yeah.
Who's like dad to a whole generation of Seacoast musicians, Rhythm Method, etc. And so we would do these kind of acoustic things on the patio, but I don't really.
That wasn't a mic though.
What's
Right?
that?
That wasn't an open mic though on a Thursday night.
No, it was me, the two Bens. Ben
Okay.
squared.
What other open mics?
So I
on
don't know what the
Thursday?
press room's doing as far as open mics, but Thursday. I don't really.
Somebody's screaming at the screen right now.
I know. Damn it! You said you'd mention my open mic.
Friday night. Do you know what Friday nights do you know? Not many, because that's stepping on show toes.
Right. You know.
Stone Church Sunday night.
Yeah.
There's another Sunday night.
That's legendary.
There's another Sunday night. WSCA first Sunday of the month. That's at the Button Factory stage in Portsmouth.
I feel like there's an open mic also in Newmarket that we're forgetting about.
Yes. Just started Rumors, I think. Rumors is doing an open mic. Wally's for a little while was doing an open mic. I think that was the Wednesday, wasn't it?
That was on Thursdays. But,
that was Thursdays. Okay.
It was seasonal, I think. So now that it's
maybe it's not
showtime.
Going anymore.
Right, but I would definitely.
We're going to have a whole list of all of the area's open mics on seacoastentertainer.org when we officially launch the website. For now, I'm going to get another push put on a regular weekly post that gets pinned. That's all of the open mics that everybody can hit each week and where they are.
Seacoastentertainer.com.
Seacoastentertainer.org, but .com will get you there. But yeah, .org. That's going to be journals and writing experience stuff, a live stream basically of all of the various posts from bands and happenings in the area, a calendar that will get you to open mics and to shows and to live tapings when they're happening, and art galleries and anything that's going on entertainment or arts in the area. There's going to be an archive.
I think it's so important to have like a central place where you can, because sometimes you'll call a venue and be like, hey, is it? And nobody picks up because they're busy or whatever. Yeah. If there's a place where it's all listed and you can just check it out anytime,
takes
all the question out of it.
We're making it.
You know.
And it's going to be owned, and well, it's not owned. It's a nonprofit, Seacoast Entertainer, and it's going to be all artists retain all the rights to everything that they do here. I want you guys, please, to play a show here, record it, have a broadcast of it, have it on the YouTube channel, and then take it.
Oh my God! I mean, I'll refer anyone that I know.
Cool. Yeah, I'm making a list. It's very long, and it's
going to take me to check it twice.
Yeah, it's going to take me a while to get through all of, because I genuinely, to do this, I have to be interested in who it is. I'm not putting anybody on that's like, you got to put me on because if you're interesting and there's a reason, but I find you very interesting. I could have a total other podcast with you where we just hang out and talk again. We basically had one prior.
Oh my God, dude! I would love that.
But yeah, let's do it again. We're going to coordinate all of the ways to find people and go back and access all of their old catalog stuff. It's all going to be at Seacoast Entertainer.
Awesome.
But for now, it's on Instagram at Seacoast Entertainer. On Facebook, you can follow Seacoast Music Scene New Hampshire. Mass and Maine, all different groups. The Seacoast Music Scene New Hampshire group is by far the biggest and oldest, but the richness of the community that engages in there, it's like no other group. It's a pleasure, but an arduous task to keep it that way. It's attacked from every angle from the outside.
Props to you for curating it.
Lakes Region Music Scene. Coming soon is South Central New Hampshire music scene, and that's going to cover Nashua, Salem, Manchester, Concord, that whole big center section. The problem is nobody wants to do the work. The thing is that I've been like kind of behind the scenes holding all this like where the plates are all kind of spinning and I'm just barely keeping them all spinning.
I don't know how you do it, honestly, dude. I can't even keep up with myself, so I could never do
wild.
What you do.
I don't have any seconds. I say I'm stretching minutes constantly. I'm like, you got to bear with me.
Let me know how you do that when we're done.
I'm stretching minutes as much as I can, but I did find somebody recently who's going to take on the mantle of the Central. Awesome. So that area will be served. The music scenes kind of pop up and drop down in these areas because nobody actually they want access to the thing, but they don't want to help run the thing. So it's finding people that are willing to hold that up, and then emulation takes over, and people go, "Oh, it's a lot easier for all of us if we just help everybody else."
Right.
But that's where you can find us, and then if you want to donate to the cause, this is becoming very expensive. Doing what we're doing, we have Tangram 3DS out of Kittery, who's generous enough to be building this website for us. It's no joke. It's not like a throwaway website that's going to be out of date soon. Like AI is going to take over when it's AGI, and then it's all out the window at that point. But they're going to make a website for us that's like real proper pretty incredible, and it's going to be a great resource.
I can't wait to see it.
And I just got bead on a app developer who has already developed an app that's really similar to something that's going to tie all of this together on a real quick interface on the phone. So getting tickets and show schedule and all of that stuff is going to be super fluid. But yeah, it's all there. If you want to help donate, you can send a check to P.O. Box 188 in Dover's post office. You can do at Venmo. On Venmo, you can do at Seacoast Entertainer. I think PayPal is the same. PayPal, seacoastentertainer.paypal or paypal.me/Seacoast Entertainer. It's Seacoast Entertainer everywhere. It's all a 501c3 nonprofit. Write it off. If you want to make a big donation, we'll tell everybody about you also, like Tangram. Those guys are incredible. Really, I can't wait for people to check that out. So
it's a beautiful thing.
Ben, thank you. It is a beautiful thing. Ben,
Thanks.
Thank you for doing this.
Thanks for you doing
You're awesome.
what you do.
Love you, brother. We'll see you out there.
Back at
And
you.
we'll see all you out there. Peace.
Here they are. Without these folks, taking Seacoast Entertainer to the next levels wouldn't be happening, not to this scale. Tangram 3DS actively supports our music and arts scene and has proudly been part of it for the last 20 years. Their creative pros bring vision to life with everything from 3D renderings and VR to video, animation, web design, and branding. As a team of artists living and working on the Seacoast, Tangram considers a thriving local culture essential to us all for the connections we make, communities we build, and creativity we foster. Visit tangram3ds.com to learn more, see their work, and imagine what they can do for you.